the last 5 years was a continuation of the achievements of China over a 40-year period. The immensity of the change in China and the challenge of such a huge economy with such a huge population, it is really quite remarkable. We need to take a longer-term perspective of what were the factors that have driven China's success. The most critical factor, you might say, is simply the aspiration of the Chinese people to want to have a better life. Their resourcefulness and their willingness to work hard, and also the fact that they are quite well educated, especially in science, engineering, the technical areas, which have enabled China, like Korea, Taiwan, Singapore in the past, to become the factory of the world. And then we have had remarkable political stability from the second generation to now Xi Jinping, which is the fifth generation leadership. And it is this domestic political stability that has enabled China to grow uninterruptedly. If you look at the history of China in the past, it was really the domestic unrest, domestic division, that tore the country apart. Then the third area, of course, is the opportunities given to China with the opening up, joining WTO, and that brought about the economic reforms in China. Very important change because it's a change in the mindset of the economic policy makers to give a bigger role for the private sector, to bring in foreign competition, and also to allow the private sector in China to grow. Then the fourth factor is the quality of the leadership, both the political leadership as well as the economic and financial leadership, which has enabled China to weather some crises, and I think in particular the 2008 global financial crisis, the mini crisis, you might say, in 2015. The responses of the Chinese authorities was very timely, and they were able to avert a more serious crisis. So that's the backdrop for the last 40 years. The change that has taken place in the last 5 years is that the problems and the challenges have grown bigger. I mean, for example, the level of debt to GDP has climbed up, because China requires a lot of credit creation to finance its growth. But the debt has now reached a level of 260% of GDP. And with that has come more constraints on how you can continue to manage the growth of the economy. There have been more problems in the area of shadow banking, and so that carries financial risk, which means that they have to act in a timely fashion to prevent this crisis from getting out of hand. And then finally, in the area of managing the foreign exchange market, the stock market, compared to 2015, when the stock market fall and the uncertainty in the foreign exchange market caused a loss of market confidence. I think this time round, despite the problems created by the trade friction with the United States, the markets have been more sort of orderly, and we didn't have the kind of panic reaction that we saw back in 2015.